Peace, peace. What's going on, fam? It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. Got my BTP brethren in the building. What's good, bros?
Peace. What's going on, brother?
Just battling with this COVID thing. It has been a rough little, I want to say, week and a half.
Yeah.
Whew. I'm gonna try to get through this without coughing like crazy. That's gonna be hard. I've made something called the hot toddy. So those that know me know that I'm not an alcoholic, a consumer of strong alcohol at all. Maybe every once in a blue, maybe once a year, something like that. But they said this will help with my cough. So I might get a little litty on here tonight, and I might say something about a toxic, narcissistic, sociopathic, egomaniacal Twitter troll with the YouTube channel. Y'all know who I'm talking about. So I need my bros to catch me and make sure I don't jump out of place and say nothing crazy, because I might just start going in. I don't know. But tonight's discussion is, how white supremacist ideology has permeated woke black spaces. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Sister Riri, I see you. I had to take a couple wrenches from a couple people because I didn't want some of the people that was aligned with us. Some people had already said, they was going to the dark side. So I was like, deuces. So that was an easy call. For others, I didn't want them to be moderators over here and then face the wrath of a Donald Trump-like narcissistic sociopath. So I just took the wrenches off. If anybody, y'all feel some type of way about it, just hit me up. I'll wrench you back up. A peace to everybody that's tuning in. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Make sure y'all share this out. We just gonna have a little discussion tonight. A lot of it is basically based off of some, a lot of conversations that's going on Clubhouse. I don't know if Brother Logic is gonna be on tonight, but I see my pops is in the building. He said, I know that Ish ain't turned my son into King Kong. Now that was a response in reference to something that this narcissistic sociopath said the other night on her YouTube channel. So, I just wanted to play that, let it be known. Yeah, we beat chess over here. But Brother Josh, Brother Ali, hey, y'all go in. I'm a work on this cough medicine over here and see if it helps while we doing it.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, Ali, bro.
Well, I think, basically, so the family knows we were having a conversation earlier today, and actually Josh brought up the idea for having this dialogue tonight about white supremacist thoughts, white supremacist ideology, white supremacist practices, and how they find their way into a lot of black spaces, even spaces such as conscious, spaces, people who you would think otherwise are quote unquote conscious individuals, and but a lot, it just goes to show you when you really examine um, these kinds of white supremacist ideas that we're going to expound on, it just goes to show you the number, the depth of the psychological damage, the invasion, the imposition of European psychology on our people. You know, is pretty deep, and a lot of times we don't even know it. It's almost like second nature to us now to perpetuate certain types of ideology, certain myths, you know, certain things about ourselves that we perpetuate. Even we oftentimes will engage in what we call racial profiling. You know, the stuff that Europeans do to us in terms of racial profiling, we perpetuate that kind of stuff against each other. You know, many times I've caught people saying things that actually come from racist thought. That comes from, you know, racist ideology. You know, you have a lot of people who have affiliated themselves with racist talking points coming out of the Republican Party. You know, a lot of stuff that they say. You know, you hear our people beginning to perpetuate that stuff. You know, I would even go as far as to say a lot of peace families, a lot of our people in the Moorish movement, they don't realize it, but they've been um, a lot of the so-called Moorish uh, groups have been guilty of perpetuating a lot of white supremacist ideologies, and a lot of times they're not even aware of it. And in certain instances, we will make people aware of the origin of certain thoughts, certain talking points, certain ideas, certain tactics that some of these Moors will use, and show them that the origin of these things actually come from white supremacist groups. You know, they don't believe it. They don't even want to accept it. Like, you know, people will push back against it and stuff. So, but in any case, we'll go into certain specific things and, you know, kind of expound on it as we go along in the show. Josh, did you want to add anything, Brother Naheem?
Yeah, you know, it really came to me because it's disappointing. Um, you know, I'm not a I'm not a young 20 something, but I still feel like, sometimes, you play basketball. So I miss basketball, by the way. But you play basketball, you start moving good, and you feel kind of young. And then people, when you people tell me all the time I look way younger than I am. So I find myself having conversations with a lot of people that's way younger, and building with them, and I can relate. I feel like I can relate, but it's just that when, like, they're so susceptible to all of these white supremacist talking points. And when I was developing my perspective in my 20s, it wasn't as much available. Now it seems like, when you get, I mean, it's so much that they can get into. There's so many places for them to receive information, and they don't have a good reference to know what is good and what's not. Like, what they should fill themselves with, and what they should reject. And it's really sad how much misinformation and unlearning they are going to have to do, um, over the course of years. And that's after having social media channels and putting out content, in having to walk back content. I know that's just the reality these days, but I'm just saying it's a much tougher thing to face. And this thing is real deep, man, especially when you get on Clubhouse, where people have a voice. And on YouTube, you already get kind of a platform you can express yourself. The difference is not everybody can go live on YouTube, and not everybody is gonna, there's so much content out there. Not everybody's gonna listen to you. But on, like, an app like Clubhouse, everybody can basically start a room and the room can grow or whatever, and you can open your mouth, and you don't know that you don't know what you don't know, and when that comes out, it's just really bad, man. And it's easier to see how deep this thing is permeated through all of these conscious spaces where people think that they're woke, but they don't understand that in various slick ways, the ideology for your own demise has crept in and has shaped how you see the world, and you don't even know that you're the own worst enemy, and you're the enemy of your people. And it's not because you have a bad heart. It's just because as a younger person, you a lot of times people you got a notebook, you open it up, there's nothing written on the pages. And so if you just write whatever gets written on the pages, and let's say you stop writing in that book, every time when you open a notebook, you're just reading from the same pages, and you didn't have to erase nothing. So man, it's just disappointing. And that's why I felt like we need to talk about how white supremacist ideology has permeated the so-called woke black spaces. And that's a serious problem with our people, especially when we try to fight for policies like reparations, programs like reparations, and other policies that may be counter to what the white supremacist ideology is telling you should be demanding.
Indeed. Yeah. So Josh, if you could maybe give them an example of one of the.
Yeah, Ali drop. All right, look, let me go in real quick, Josh. Let me camel back off of what you just said as it relates to Clubhouse. And bear with me, family. I'm battling this cough still. This COVID thing is no joke. But one of the things that I'm seeing on Clubhouse, you hit the nail on the head when you said it's not like YouTube where everybody can go live, because everybody can't go live. So what Clubhouse does is it gives a whole bunch of people the opportunity to speak. As one brother was like, what this dude said, he felt that he's the only brother that speaks reason. I always see the brother in the rooms and yada, yada, yada. He's always going in, and I'll be like, yo, man, what the hell is this dude talking about? I think the dude could be a good asset if he had the right information, but I'll be sitting there listening. I'm like, man, what is this dude talking about? So what we're seeing on Clubhouse, like today I was on early, I jumped in the room. One of the brothers, he pulled me on to speak, made me a moderator real quick. And I start instantly going at this idea that the United States of America is a federal, no, they're not even saying federal corporation, because I think they're starting to realize just how stupid that sounds. The United States of America is a corporation like Wendy's, Walmart, and Target. So I come in the room and I shut it down, and I put out a challenge to the people, and I basically let it be known that we need to be moving politically here in the United States of America. I told them all of this stuff y'all people get on here and talk about day after day, day in and day out, sounding like experts on nonsense, is nonsense. All this stuff is nonsense. It's a distraction. I said, you're scared to do battle with these Europeans. So you get on here and pontificate about a bunch of nothing, basically. And I said, what we need is political unity. So some sister jumps on. I don't know if this sister was Haitian or from one of the African countries. She said, excuse me, what do you mean by we? We, those of us who descend from the freedmen, the ones formerly enslaved here in the United States of America. That's what I mean by we, sister. I don't know about you and what your political aims are here, but I know the history of my people and what our political aims need to be. So, a lot of that stuff is rooted in, and let me just bring it back to the topic. A lot of that stuff, you see people on Clubhouse, they're able to afford an iPhone. A lot of them have money, right? Or at least they think they have money. They have doing better than the rest of our people money. Let's put it like that. So for them, and I've watched this over the years, how people started to pick up right-wing talking points and right-wing ideologies who were what we would consider black middle class. And we're seeing a lot of this on Twitter. I mean, excuse me, on Clubhouse. I was watching, I got Twitter on the brain. That troll is nagging me.
Yeah, don't.
Okay, thank you, brother, for keeping me. That troll just got me going somewhere. But anyway, and y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But what I'm seeing is that these people that are doing a little bit better than everybody else has a solution based on what they think the solution is, according to how successful they are in their fields of endeavor. So if somebody's into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, they feel that Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is the only solution. If they're into agriculture, they feel that agriculture is the only solution. If they're into Forex, any type of business venture that gives them that has boosted their money, their finances, if you will, that thing they feel puts them above the fray. And for whatever crazy reason, they align with Donald Trump and right-wing politics.
Isn't that something?
Understanding, let me round it out with this. Not understanding that is a part of the slave power thinking, rugged individualism. Don't give the Negroes nothing. Let them pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. So then the quote unquote Negroes get money, and then look back at the people that are down, especially those of them who were down, and they adopt this same racist right-wing talking point of rugged individualism of pull yourself up by your own bootstrap.
Yeah. I think that's amazing, man, because that's not how white America was built. That's not how the white middle class was built. That's not how they continue their legacy, by way of do for self. Like the do for self ideology is really like something for black folks. It's really something for black folks. I don't know where that particular talking point, I mean, as a talking point, I'm not talking about even the fact that our people have always had to do for self, right? Nobody's ever done anything for us. So we've always had to do for self anyway. That's like a given, right? We never were able to get handouts from anyone. No friends, nobody helped us do anything. Whatever we did, whatever we was able to achieve, we did it by way of struggle, right? We did it by way of struggle. So there's no handouts, none of that kind of stuff. That's not a part of our history. But the interesting thing is, handouts is very much a part of white American history. That's how white America was built. Handouts. I mean, like we've mentioned this before, you can go all the way back to peace, Shayna. We can go all the way back to colonial America, to the time period where they were granting each other 50 acres of land under what they call the headright system. They have a long history of granting to themselves the very things that they tell you have to work for, right? They grant it to each other, to themselves.
Well, and they took from us. Think real quick, Brother Ali. When we did build up and were able to purchase our own plots of lands, these same people that granted themselves land took our land that we were prospering from.
Exactly. Yes, indeed. Exactly. They, I just think that what happens is because our people are so well versed in African history, particularly Kemetic history, and so lacking in American history, they don't understand the depth of what actually occurred here because we've been so concerned with what happened in Africa 2,000, 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago. We've been so concerned and consumed by that history, trying to find ourselves and our place in this world. And by doing that, connecting ourselves to African history is how we found ourselves in validation. Put it like this: how do we validate ourselves in this white world where we were dominated in this society by people called white? The way we did that was by linking ourselves to ancient Kemetic history. So we've been so consumed with the ancient Kemetians, the ancient Nubians, the ancient Carthaginians, the ancient Moorish people, the people of West Africa, of the West African empires. We've been so consumed with those things that we never really took the time to go through American history, which more directly affects who we are today and where we are today, and how certain ideologies have generationally been with our families and ultimately infiltrates certain groups of people, whether they be Moors, Hebrews, Aboriginals, Nation of Islam, whatever. There's certain ideas that come from white folks that have permeated any of those groups. Brother Josh, did you want to go in from there?
Oh yeah, man. And I got my son with me right now. He got this program in the back, so that's gonna be a little background noise for y'all. But yeah, I wanted to say to that, and one person will say, well, how is focusing on ancient Moorish history, ancient Egyptian history, that's empowering? How was that influencing? How was that influenced by some white supremacist ideology? Well, I wouldn't say maybe it's an indirect thing, right? Because see, when you focus, like you said, Ali, on that which is other than here, which is uh far away history in a far away land, that a lot of that, some of it may be historical in terms of what you can find archaeologically, or some of it may be recorded history, but much of it is romanticized even. Or we'll take the history and try to build our own narratives around it, not understanding the cultural context that was in place hundreds or thousands of years ago. And what that does is that serves the purpose of abdication and feeling like you can be removed from a process, feeling like you're not rooting yourself in people that are going to help your justice claim and your justice fight for today, because you didn't already got your glory from yesteryear. You don't need to see a future glory. So it de-incentivizes you from fighting, and from you being politically engaged today. It's okay to have that frame of reference from yesterday, but you don't want to lose the enthusiasm and the vigor for fighting for justice for your, like if somebody, we see it in the street every day. Somebody kill your brother, you picking up something, right? And you're gonna go see somebody. Well, if somebody lynched your great your great grandfather, I mean, you pissed about that too. But hey, something that happened in the year 3500 BC or whatever the case may be, you're not really gonna be too incensed about it.
Right.
So I would say, that serves the purpose of taking you out of, like, kind of almost taking you off the board in terms of fighting politically, because you already got your wins of yesteryear. You don't need to see you don't feel like you need to see some wins for today.
So let me ask you this, Josh. Are there any particular instances that you can point to where that the people can understand what you're talking about, what we're talking about when we say certain white supremacist ideologies, ideas that permeate various groups of conscious people in the United States? Are there any particular instances that you could point to so that people really get a good understanding of where we're going with this?
Well, I mean, the most relevant right now with the most amount of people, because we want to talk about we're familiar with the sovereign citizen Moors, and we're going to get into that. But the one I feel like we need to hit on first is coming from the younger group of our people, who, I mean, it was this one clubhouse room today I seen, and this didn't even inspire the conversation, right? This just kind of highlighted, well, we already had set the title for the show, and it was like, is Donald Trump the savior for the country, saving the country from Democrats? I'm like, after all this, I mean,
I got something,
it
Josh.
makes no sense.
You just made me think about it. So you know how people say Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it today or yesterday? I was in an exchange with a person talking about black people being on the Democratic plantation, right? And black people need to get off the Democratic plantation. Now, this was another quote unquote black person saying this to me, right? He assumes that I'm on the Democratic plantation, as he calls it, right? And so that idea comes from Europeans. This whole Democratic plantation that black people are on, that's a white supremacist talking point that they use to try to shame black people for being in alignment with the Democratic Party based on the ideals that are being pushed by the Democratic Party versus those being pushed by the Republican Party. They don't understand that we know about party realignment and why it happened over time, why black people went from Republican to Democrat. They don't understand that we know that the Republican Party today is not the party of Lincoln. It's not the party of Lincoln. There was I think a lot, and you'll see Moors, Hebrew Israelites, Aboriginal people. You'll see a lot of them talk about our people were originally Republicans. It's like, yeah, but see, this again goes to the point that I was making about American history. We've been so consumed with African history that we've never really took the time to get into American history the way that we should. And so if our people were as astute in American history as we are in Kemetic history, knowledge of the glyphs and all of those things, if our people were as astute in American history as they are in those things, we would know why our people went from, peace, brother Ibrahim, why our people went from Republican Party to Democratic Party. There were very specific reasons for that. And so again, the whole idea of a Democratic quote unquote plantation is a white supremacist talking point, but you'll hear many people perpetuating that talking point regardless of what particular conscious group that they're in. You'll see them using it against each other. You know what I'm saying? I like I said, someone just said it to me just yesterday. Peace, brother Graham. What's good, bro?
Peace to the God. Sorry, I'm late. I don't know what cover so far, so I'm gonna just stand by.
No doubt, no doubt, bro.
I'm just having some computer issues.
All good.
Right now, and I got to restart my laptop. Though y'all see my little green screen in the background.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So I had a baby dinosaurs or something in the back.
Baby dinosaurs in the back.
My bad. Let me get on mute.
So,
I wanted to say something to that, Ali. Just kind of building with
bro.
you. And damn, it left my mind that quick. Go ahead. It'll come back.
Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, that's one of the main ones that I see used by Black people that does come from white folks as an attempt to shame Black people for their party alignment with the Democratic Party. Black capitalism comes from Nixon. Yep. So I mean,
let's talk about that right there. Can we talk?
Okay.
Can we build on that one right there? Because that's kind of a segue I was looking to get to.
Yeah,
anyway.
Because that you wanted to go into the Nation of Islam piece. So go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So we were reading a lot of books, right? we were reading a book by Mercer Baradaran, The Color of Money, and in that particular book, she started talking about the history of Black banking and history of Black capitalism in America, and she was talking about how the idea, which has really been a farce, because I mean, how can you have Black capitalism without Black folks having capital? I mean, isn't it a prerequisite to participate in capitalism with having some capital? I mean, because we see that's what happened with white America. They were positioned they were essentially given capital. Let's just talk about. I'm gonna bring this up every time until this gets, I mean, very, very solidly implanted into everybody's mind and on the tip of your tongue when you want to talk about the history of our inequality. We talk about the Homestead Acts. The Homestead Acts were a set of acts that were where land in the frontiers of America had such vast lands that were underdeveloped, and America just gave away the equivalent of, it gave away essentially 10% of its lands. I believe it's like 46 million Americans today, this is as of 2000, I believe, can trace their family wealth building to getting just on the Homestead Act alone, which is essentially like 20% of America. But these lands were given, so we didn't get 40 acres of the mule, but these lands were given to white Americans largely at 160 acres per family, all the way up to, in the future Homestead Acts, will give 640 acres per family. And the ones of us that our people did receive the land, much of that was lost. I want to say pretty much between the in the whole 20th century, we lost over 90% of the farmland. So you want to talk about how can we participate in capitalism? Well, we were never allowed to participate in it. And when capital was given out, we weren't really included in that. So when you come out with a program for Black capitalism, that's a prerequisite now. So when we see that start is under Richard Nixon, as was said in the chat. So one of the larger or more prominent, I don't want to say more the largest, but one of the more prominent movements for our people, especially for our people being conscious during the civil rights era, was the Nation of Islam. But what we see through Elijah Muhammad upon Richard Nixon's presidential victory in '68 is we see him kind of put a muzzle on anybody speaking out against his organization, against the Nixon administration. And I mean, matter of fact, Baradaran references an April 1970. I don't know, Ali, if you got that, you can bring it up on my iPad. I can't pull it up right now, but it's an April. I don't know what week it is. 1970 issue of Muhammad Speaks. He's actually bigging up Nixon's program, but he essentially put out a gag order on anybody speaking against the Nixon administration in hopes of getting contracts, and he's basically parroting the Black capitalism ideology and aspirationalism, or whatever the case may be, that Nixon is saying. And we see that still is the mentality for today. Nobody has done the work of cleaning, of identifying that and cleaning that up. And so we see a lot of the do for selferism, and and we see, and subsequent
Hey,
studies
Josh.
have come out.
Let me
Yeah.
say real quick, Josh. We also see that repeating of rugged individualism by members of the Nation of Islam as well. You see Nuri Muhammad from the Breakfast Club to his interviews with Ben X talking about how blacks spend recklessly. We have the wealth of small nations and all of this nonsense that Jared Ball destroys in his works. The myth of what is it? The myth of black spending power. I'm actually in contact with that brother. We're gonna bring him on Be the Power for an interview soon. Yeah, my bad. I didn't mean to cut you, but I wanted to add that in there so that those that are new listening, some people may be listening from Clubhouse. I was in the room earlier. I told people that we be going live tonight. We keep hearing this thing where we are blaming ourselves for our economic shortcomings instead of blaming the people that shorted us while giving themselves and immigrants that came from Europe everything to establish themselves. We got to break out of that.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely, man.
but that home, I wanted to add real quick, Ali, that those homestead acts. See, a lot of times people think those homestead acts are just given to the former plantation owners and foundation, what we call foundation, for lack of a better term, foundational white Americans, right? Nah, those is given to even brand new immigrants off the boats of Europe that without a coin in their pocket. They just had enough to do the application fee, and then here you go, you get some land, you get some land. That's not just to people that was already here getting the land. That's brand new immigrants. Meanwhile, we was locked out. Go ahead, Ali or Grim.
Oh no, yeah, I mean the sister. I think they had a quote up there. One of the sisters said that we're basically trained to blame ourselves. I mean, and that's all of this stuff is rooted in. And as we were having our conversations earlier about this whole thing, man, I mean, the bottom line is this: that a lot of our people, in order to sound deep, I know y'all probably talked about a lot of this already, but a lot of our people, in order to sound deep, in order to solve our problems, like lack of finances and depressed economic conditions, we go to those sources over and over and over again. Those sources of upliftment, or as Brother Wayel was talking about, this rugged individualism. We go to those sources to solve our problems. So what we see, even with what's going on now, I mean, I don't want to change the topic, but even of what is going on now, and people were talking about the rise of support of President Donald Trump among black men and black people in general. But see, we get that with the rise of this thing called social media, and the expression of those ideas basically permeated our community. So we are more apt to accept the supremacist talking points and supremacist conspiracy theories, based upon a wide dissemination of this information, via a lot of these mediums, man. So I'm just glad that we talking about this right now, because it's really a serious problem. And when you don't have truth in a situation, I'm gonna just kind of get metaphysical for just 1 second. When you don't have truth in a situation, or when something is not rooted in basic truths, those things will never succeed. So what we keep seeing is basically a failure of this institution, a failure of that institution, a failure of this institution. But we don't really analyze why that happened. And the reason that these things are happening is because in many instances, we have basically accepted those things pushed upon us. And when you look at, and I hate to go into this, but Josh brought it up. When you look at a Nation of Islam ideology, yeah, I mean it placed the blame squarely on the European or whatever as the cause of trouble, but at the same time, it also pushed an ideology that you blacks are poor because of this. You blacks are poor because you do that. You blacks are poor. So it's all rooted in that. And many movements after movements after movements had did the same thing. So now, and I'm about to call some names here. You have the polites of the world, and they present. And y'all tell me if I'm going off track from what y'all was going at. You have the polites of the world. They present a body of information, but they didn't pull that stuff out the sky. They go study these sources from Europeans, and they repackage these ideas and they sell them to our people. So you have the young pharaohs.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Absolutely. So you have the young pharaohs of the world. They parrot these same concepts and ideas, repackage them, and sell it to our people. So when something is not necessarily rooted in the truth, how could those things be successful? You follow what I'm saying? Or eternally successful when it's not rooted in truth. Even the whole Indian thing, the Aboriginal, because I'll be the first to tell you that, I come from out of those schools. I've studied those schools. The whole indigenous Native American thing that you hear everybody talking about, or the blacks are the true Indians, and then they call the other Aboriginals $5 Indians. All of that stuff, in many cases and circumstances, is rooted in a lot of white supremacy.
That is a fact.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, Josh. I know you got another point you want to bring.
Yeah. I mean, you was hitting it right on the head, Grum. Like your young pharaohs, and I got two things I want to do. I don't know if we're gonna need to break it up, but the first one I'm gonna save the second one because I already wrote it in the chat. But the first one I want to talk about is, it needs to be a program, and I'm man, this is kind of deep, but I'm gonna hit y'all with it. So it needs to be a program for re-education in America. Like we saw with the Capitol riots and the white mob terrorizing and doing insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. We see. Let me move to where this thing's not so loud. We saw that it's a whole. That's that was a prime example of how breeding grounds for hatred for years and years and years, and unchecked and allowed to fester, manifest in when they don't get what they want, they're gonna throw their temper tantrum. They're not gonna get brought to account. You let police is helping them go, escorting them down the steps so they can leave after insurrection and doing acts of sedition and causing one of the most severe U.S. security breaches in the history of the country. And but we see that, I mean, we can attribute some of that to miseducation through the programs of the Lost Cause movement, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and that being allowed to permeate. It should be a program for re-education of America, where all of that is wiped away from the school books and the truth is told. And therefore, people are forced to have the proper information in the school system and are forced to be assimilated into the proper information instead of allowed to exist in a fantasy world where slaves were just happy migrants, and they just were docile, and the master was they were so grateful for matter of fact, they don't even call them slaves, they call them servants. The servants were just happy and on the plantation. No, that kind of stuff, and it was not about slavery. And no, because I remember in school they didn't make us read the secession documents or the secession speeches or the words. They just told us the perspective. There needs to be a re-education, because you go to a place like, I remember, I live in the DC area. I remember going to the National Smithsonian, and you go in there, and it used to be, you go to the Smithsonian of American History, and it used to be a lot of things in there dealing with race, dealing with America's race problem, going all the way from slavery and exhibits on the Ku Klux. I don't know, can't remember all of them exactly, but it was a lot of context as far as race. Now you pretty much, they didn't move all that stuff to the Negro Smithsonian, and they kind of whitewash that out of the American History Smithsonian. And so when you come in there, you pretty much see America, through the lens of somebody who doesn't want to have the race conversation. It's almost like, so if you're an immigrant and you don't know about it, or you're a young person, you want to learn the story, you're not going to see the horrors and the brutality and the injustice and all that kind of stuff through that American history. You can get it from the African American history and culture or whatever, Smithsonian, but you're not going to get it through the American. So in another way, when immigrants come, it needs to be like, you shouldn't be able to come to America without learning the history of our people in America, because as we see, it's the race issue of America that is the most consequential part that shapes the politics and the social aspect of America, period. Because we already saw that the city, I think it was Citigroup, Citibank, or whatever, came out with the study. Since 2000, the American economy has suffered $16 trillion loss due to racial discrimination, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So we see that that's even consequential economically. Not even talking about politically, where people literally are willing to do acts of sedition to maintain that. So the woke space that I see now is the immigrant groups come over here now and don't get the proper education for our people's history and what America really is. So they are highly more susceptible to grasp and be exposed to the talking points of the right-wing supremacists and the white supremacists, especially understanding that the majority of, I'm talking about Black immigrants now, but also other groups, the other brown ones too, but especially Black immigrants. Like we saw that one brother, I don't know if y'all can pull up the image of the Kenyan dude at the U.S. Capitol, but it's a Kenyan dude he was standing all alone, looking around with his hat turned backwards, a MAGA hat turned backwards, in the middle of the U.S. Capitol. Now, I don't know if this dude is a citizen or not, but let me tell you, most Africans that, the majority of them don't come to America as refugees. Most of them come, it's a selectivity process where they select the people that are the most academically well accomplished, the ones that are most business minded, the ones that have money, that have capital to come and invest, the ones that already possess high education levels, the ones that already possess high technical skills, and they come in and they get high paying jobs, or they go to an area where it's a
hold on, Josh. I don't mean to cut you, man. I want somebody to respond to Nayume Ubuntu. Let me pull it up. He says African Americans don't know our history for the most part. But I just want to know how that's.
I'll address that when you're done, brother.
Yeah, I just want to know how is that relevant to what we need to do here in the United States of America.
Well, maybe that's what he's referring to, because the brother, he could be African American. I don't know. Maybe that's what he's talking about.
I think I think we need a little bit more clarification on his statement, before we address it. What is he trying to say? What are you trying to? Because it says African Americans don't know our history for the most part.
Brother,
Yeah.
brother Mbutu, Nyami Mbutu, are you African American? Are you referring to like African American history? Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
Yes.
while he's commenting, I just want to finish my point and I'm gonna hand it off. So like most college campuses, you got
They go that image, Josh.
oh, there you go. There you go. See, he probably went
He said
somewhere.
he's African American.
Okay, he's probably talking about we need to know our history here. Yeah, we agree, brother.
I agree. We do need to know
Right.
African American history.
Your comment. Let me just say real quick. When and let me say, I'm looking at the name obviously, and then I'm reading the comment, and it says African Americans don't know our history for the most part. So I thought he was talking about maybe Kenyan or Nigerian history. So my bad. Pardon me.
Yeah,
Right.
but
So
you look at this dude.
this is a Kenyan brother right here, right, Josh?
Yeah, that's it. That's him. Yeah, I mean, and you can look at it. He's probably here. He probably went to school here. He probably went to a white school, and
Let
or
me
was
find the other picture because there's another one. Did it change?
yeah.
Yeah. See, this is
Kenyan born
from.
citizen. Well, go ahead and
Yeah,
read it, Ali.
I can't see it that good because it looks small on my end.
All right, I'm gonna read. A Kenyan-born U.S. citizen spotted smack in the middle of a group of pro-Trump hooligans that stormed Capitol Hill on Wednesday has come out to deny that he was a part of the chaos and ransacking that rocked the U.S. Senate. In a phone interview 2 hours after a photo of him standing atop a seat inside the Senate chamber went viral, Jimmy Foster Otieno said he was there to see for himself the chaos and was not in any way out to cause trouble. See, what you mean, bro? They gonna lock you up probably longer than
Didn't he
anything.
have a MAGA hat on?
He had a MAGA hat on the back, turned backwards. We don't believe you, man.
It looked like a
We
MAGA
don't
hat.
believe.
Man,
We don't believe you, bro.
they gonna put you on them federal charges and put
Oh
you
yeah,
out in front of it.
that's a fact. See, this is one of the things that I speak about here on Be the Power when I speak about plugging into whiteness, how immigrants come and they plug into whiteness. There was a conversation that we was having on Clubhouse, and there was this one sister by the name of Bella, and she was basically asking the same. I think she was coming from a good place, but I had to basically let her know that we can't just take your questions as non-offensive because we keep being asked these questions out of offense to be offensive, and I said I can look at you, sis, and I can tell that forget how you sound, I can look at you and tell that you're not from here, right? We that are the descendants of freedmen in America are an amalgamation of various different African tribes, giving us a unique look, making us our own unique tribe. And when you get people coming over here, what winds up happening is they don't understand how they are being I don't want to necessarily say used by white supremacy, but there's really no other word to use. When you look at the CBS show, Bob Hart's
Abishola, right?
Abishola,
When you
yeah.
look at that, you'll see that it is a show that is designed for Africans to denigrate African Americans.
Yeah. A lot of
Denigrate African Americans. So, we like it's a bunch of stuff that has to be addressed in that regard. I'm trying to work out the kinks.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
having
bro,
some
can you bring
computer
up
issues.
Dr.
I don't know what's
Lely's?
going on. I think my somebody trying to put roots on my system, but I got
Nah,
that
yeah,
hot
you
trying to
sound-
conquer a root working,
Yeah.
working right
Can you
now.
bring up that?
Go ahead, bro.
Hey, can you bring up that Dr. Lely comment when she said I didn't fit the Akata stereotype? She was telling her. She was saying. I'm gonna just read the comment. I don't know if you can bring it up. She
There you
said,
go.
go to the one right before that. She was telling the story. This is an interesting story. I was shocked when this Nigerian woman came to me, all excited about being Rosa Parks in a campus mock civil rights march. She knew nothing about Black history and always seemed puzzled by me. Then she go to the next one she had. She said I didn't fit the Akata stereotype.
Is that how you pronounce it? Akata?
Akata? I don't know. That's how the Kenyan pronounces it. I don't know how the Ghanaians, whoever. It says I didn't fit the Akata stereotype she was fed about ADOS. I was tripping on her too. I asked her how she learned Spanish so well. She was my tutor. She said from her maid in Africa. Yeah, a lot of times, man, we got to understand that people over here they come from being the white people over where they're from. So it's easier for them to relate to the white people of America than it is for us. They don't come from the bottom. A lot of those don't come, outside of like people that come from a refugee situation, mostly from East Africa, like Somalia and Ethiopia and places like that, Eritrea, somewhere where it's coming from a conflict or some type of crisis, like starvation or civil war. Most people come from a higher privileged place. They're coming from where they're the upper middle class to wealthy of those areas, the highborn or whatever the case may be. They got maids, and let me just tell you, I've been to Kenya. I really enjoyed myself over there. I enjoyed the people there. I learned a lot about the differences of the culture and how they see us and how we see ourselves and all that kind of stuff. I went way before. I went like several years ago. So anyway, most people, pretty much everybody that I visited had maids. They had somebody that came from the slums. When we say slums, I'm talking about slums, people living in like corrugated steel houses or whatever makeshift scrap that they can make houses with no running water. Or just I'm talking that's that kind of slums. They pay them like 10% of whatever their income is. So if you already making,
Hey, Josh, can I interject real quick, brother?
go ahead.
Because we addressed the immigrant thing, but I ain't really want to turn this into an immigrant thing because really, man, what we supposed to be talking about is how this white supremacist knowledge, man, infiltrated like basically like African or Afrocentric in so-called conscious circles.
No, you good. You good. I just was trying to. I thought that was a valid thing because we see like how did this Kenyan dude end up in the Capitol riots, and then you go and look at the conversations that's happening today. A lot of those same people in some of these conscious groups, you don't know that they're not ADOS, but you try to figure out why do you have a right wing talking point, and it's because they can coming from where they come from. They were the white people from where they were and
Got it.
coming over here, or they maybe they're not, maybe they from somewhere like Haiti or somewhere where they say, well, I built mine from scratch. I came here with nothing. How come you can't do that too? And
Right.
they again have not been educated on our history here. So that's why I was saying, those people it has to be a re-education program for new immigrants coming here, especially to know the history of our people in addition to in the regular education system. That has to be part of the reparations program. But go ahead. But we want to move on.
Yeah, well, one of the sisters said they wanted to to hear your story about your trip to Africa and what you experienced. So, I just fall back on that, brother. If you just want to keep
Oh
demonstrating.
no, it hey,
But
I like I said, I enjoy myself. I enjoy the people. I keep it brief. I stayed for about a month and a half, and went on a vacation, but unfortunately, it was a death in the family there, and it extended my vacation by a couple weeks, and and what I got from it was, I went over there and I had to, wanting to connect with the people, and I was trying to figure out why they keep calling me Mzungu, because I'm a little light bright dude. Let me turn my little camera on. So I'm a little light bright dude, right? And so they call me Mzungu. Mzungu is like Kiswahili for aimless wanderer, somebody wander around in circles. Basically, they use it for Europeans. So I'm like, damn, man, I'm looking at myself like I'm an African, and they looking at me like they calling me European, you know. So I was like, okay, and I was like, maybe it's a one-off thing. Nah, it became a regular thing. So then I was like, you're right. I'm a descendant. My ancestors was African, but I'm also a descendant of Europeans. I'm a descendant of some Native Americans, probably down the line, whatever the case may be. So I'm essentially I'm American to them, and but I don't want to get too deep into the trip because that's gonna detract from the program. But anybody ever got any questions about that, feel free to hit me up and ask me.
No
Ali,
doubt. Yeah.
now we had some experience in the Moorish community. Um,
Mhm.
what are some of the things that we've seen in groups like the Moors, or what are some of the common white supremacist talking points that you hear among some of the Moors and some of the more Aboriginal, autochthonous, you know, nationals and all this kind of stuff? What are some of the common talking points you hear that and how can you show how they stem and come from white supremacist groups?
Well, I'll tell you this, right? This is a good question. Now, just recently, because of the insurrection that occurred, what you see is the 14th Amendment has come up, right? Now, people who tune into this program know that we've touched on the 14th Amendment in the past, not really in crazy depth, but we did touch on it, and we talked about, and one of the things that I know I talk about is the fact that the 14th Amendment is not solely for the issue of citizenship. There's a history to it coming out of the Civil War, where when you read the other sections of the 14th Amendment after Section 1, Section 1 is about citizenship. But after Section 1, when you read it, you start to understand within the framework of the Civil War that one of the main purposes of that amendment was to disable those who had engaged in insurrection against the United States. So what are we seeing now? Now we're seeing members of Congress thinking of invoking the 14th Amendment, Section 3, because they're classifying what happened in the Capitol building as a form of insurrection. So when you read that, and like I said, those who were paying attention to our programs in the past know that we touched on the 14th Amendment and the necessity of it. So that's one of the things that we used to talk about to the Moors. I used to talk to the Moors because they have part of their teaching is that the 14th and 15th Amendments were not necessary for the salvation of our people and the citizens. So, but the thing about it is, when you go into it and when you can properly contextualize how the 14th Amendment came about, why it came about, and what it says outside of the first section on dealing with citizenship, when you read it and understand it in the context of the Civil War, you know that it was in fact necessary. And now you see this 14th Amendment coming up again. But most of us think about the 14th Amendment in the sense of the citizenship issue. But the fact of the matter is, it's actually being looked at for Section 3, which deals with the disabling and the removal of Congress people who engaged in insurrection. The point I'm trying to get to in terms of white supremacist ideology is there was a program that I had watched on C-SPAN years ago. It was a sister, constitutional law professor, giving some history on the 14th Amendment, its ratification and adoption, and why white people from the time of its adoption, even up to the present, have consistently railed against the 14th Amendment. And it was because the 14th Amendment disabled those white people who were engaged in insurrection and those white people who aided those who engaged in insurrection against the United States. It disabled them politically, at the same time enabling black people, at the same time providing some degree of cover from a civil rights perspective for black people, because a lot of legislation came out of the 14th Amendment. But the white people who rail against the 14th Amendment are doing so because they're racist. So what you have is you have black people and even Moors who rail against the 14th Amendment because they've conflated this idea that what Noble Drew Ali was teaching about the 14th Amendment is not necessary with the idea that the 14th Amendment was not properly ratified, coming from white supremacists, because I've heard these kinds of arguments come from the 14th Amendment was never properly ratified. Drew Ali said the 14th Amendment is not necessary, it's illegal, blah, 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 all these ideas about the 14th Amendment being illegal. If you hear a Moore saying the 14th Amendment was illegal, if you hear Moore saying the 14th Amendment was not properly ratified, if you hear any Aboriginal person speaking that way, it's because that idea comes from white racists of the Confederate who did not agree with the 14th Amendment because it was designed to disable them for dealing in insurrection against the United States. So that's another example of how certain white supremacist ideology has permeated quote unquote conscious group, in this particular instance, the Moors.
Damn.
Right. And let me add to that too, brother Ali. The bottom line is this, and that was beautifully stated. But I just want to come behind you and say the bottom line of that is this. Even with that stuff that happened at the Capitol on January 6th, all of this stuff that's going on now is tied back to those same argument points that the Confederates or the Southerners had made in 1864 and 1865 and after. Those points contributed to the Republican Party, right? The original Republican Party going back on their words of what they were supposed to do with the descendants of freedmen. So they let the Southerners return back to power via Jim Crow and them pulling out of the South during the Reconstruction era, meaning pulling out the military might that was supposed to be enforcing the laws of the Constitution. And all of this stuff is related because those people were given free reign to do what they wanted with our ancestors, right? And whoever else was there. Now, they had free reign all the way from, I think they pulled out in 1868, if I'm not mistaken, 1869. So they had free reign all the way from 1868, 1869 to 1965, when the federal government, under the works of Dr. King, the federal government had to step back in and desegregate the schools, right? Desegregate the restaurants, pass this law, the Voters' Rights Act, Civil Rights Act. The federal government had to step back in once again to make these arguments. So what these people did was they reverted all the way back to the same Civil War arguments of states' rights and the things of that nature. They reverted back to that junk. So now they are reverting today, reverting back to those same arguments that they were making in 1965 and before, all the way back to 1868. And it's crazy that this whole thing has never been healed. Now, how does that relate to the so-called conscious community and the points of the things that the people in the so-called black community have adopted these ideas, right? Particularly the what Brother Ali that Josh asked Brother Ali about. Basically, because those people don't believe in certain statements in the amendments, particularly the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. So what they did was they adopted the sovereign citizen movement. Anybody don't know what the sovereign citizen movement is, right? If you go to the FBI website, FBI.gov, and you type in the sovereign citizen movement, I'm gonna just go ahead and read some stuff. I'm not gonna put it up because I see Way L got something up, so I don't know if he wanted to read something. But
no, that was something Ali had pulled up. It was on the word insurrection.
Insurrection. I'm gonna try to I'm gonna screen share real quick. And I want to read this from the FBI website real quick. So
and while you're doing that, let me
yes,
speak to some of the. I was just having that conversation today on Clubhouse. A lot of our people are. Let me share a story, family. Before I pull, and I was telling the bros about this earlier. I was into all of this sovereign citizen stuff when I first got into the Moorish movement, before I understood what Noble Drew Ali was teaching, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I had got arrested by the sheriff. He kind of just forced his way in the crib, and I kind of tussled with him at first. Then I was like, wait a minute, I know all of this stuff. Don't fight with this dude. I was like, you got it. And he was trying to be the superhero, but he wasn't budging me at all. But I was just thinking, it's like I'm gonna show everybody I could beat this stuff. So I goes to the federal court here in my city, and the clerk, European woman, white woman, she's looking over my papers that I'm filing. I got some quote from Abraham Lincoln and a bunch of other stuff in the document. So she's sitting there, she's flipping the pages. She's like, okay, yeah. She was like, that's an excellent quote that you have there by Abraham Lincoln. She was like, in fact, this is the clerk at the court taking my document to file so I could sue the sheriff with all of this sovereign citizen stuff, right? And she's recognizing all of this stuff. She tells me, well, I can see where you're at with it. She says, we're having a march in Washington on such and such date. I can't even remember the year, but I'll get to that part. And because then you can figure out the year. And she said, make sure you check us out. I'm like, sure. We engaged in a nice little conversation. This is the federal clerk that I'm building with. And she see that I'm on the same page. She gives me the sticker that is the Gadsden flag, the don't tread on me sticker with the snake that's broken up. I believe it's into 13 different parts. So I put that joint on my book bag. I rocked that joint into, I don't know what happened to the book bag, but that sticker stayed on that book bag. I looked at it as a badge of honor. We seen that Gadsden flag flying at the Capitol during the insurrection the other day. As you start to look that thing up, then you understand what it's about. I didn't immediately look it up at the time. So
it says, "Don't tread on me."
Don't tread on me.
Can I just when you're done, I'm gonna break down the history of that too, because that's something we can talk about.
So I go. The day that she says that they're having this march in Washington, I go. I'm looking on CNN, MSNBC, Fox. I'm like, where's this thing happening at? I'm not seeing. Something tells me turn to C-SPAN. I turn to C-SPAN and this thing is popping. It's thousands of them out there. And this became the Tea Party. So the sovereign citizens had wisened up. They understood we're not going to get nothing done talking about we're the president of the whatever type of United States of America or United States for America, not of America, and all of this crazy nonsense. So they understood the political process. And they had early on a Tea Party caucus that was a form of what we see today, a much milder form of what we see today as QAnon. So this thing is evolving into newer, dumber, in my opinion, iterations of the old Confederate South. The old today, these are the spawns of the old Confederate South. These are the people that were mad that they lost the right of ownership in human beings, the right of ownership in us and our ancestors. These people are still mad about that. Or everything that these people are about is rooted in anti-blackness. Make no mistake about it. No mistake about it. So let me get up off here. Oh, brother Logic is in the building. Peace, bro. Okay, brother Logic just dropped off.
In and out. Yeah, but Grim has something he wanted to pull up.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, so I don't know if I could if I can get this larger than that, but I'm gonna read it.
After you read this, brother Josh had a question, and then we gonna let our brother Logic come in and go in. Go ahead, bro.
Right. So basically, what the story that you was telling, brother man, is really relevant to this entry on the FBI webpage. That lady that you were talking to, that clerk of court, was basically, for all intents and purposes, a sovereign citizen. And
that's right.
Here, this reads domestic terrorism, the sovereign citizen movement. Domestic terrorism, Americans attacking Americans because of US-based extremist ideology, comes in many forms in our post 9/11 world. To help educate the public, we've previously outlined two separate domestic terror threats: eco-terrorists, animal rights extremists, and lone offenders. Today, we look at a third threat, the sovereign citizen extremist movement. Sovereign citizens are anti-government extremists, and this is the important part, because this relates to what a lot of the people in these indigenous movements and these Moorish movements basically tap into. Sovereign citizens are anti-government extremists who believe that even though they physically reside in this country, they are separate or sovereign from the United States. As a result, they believe they don't have to answer to any government authority, including courts, taxing entities, motor vehicle departments, or law enforcement. This causes all kinds of problems and crimes. For example, many sovereign citizens don't pay their taxes. They hold illegal courts that issue warrants for judges and police officers. They clog up the system. This is important too, because this is particularly what the Moors have bad, and it's indigenous black sovereign, whatever they call themselves, right? They clog up the court system with frivolous lawsuits and liens against public officials to harass them. and they use fake money orders, personal checks, and the like at government agencies, banks, and businesses. So I just wanted y'all to see that. I would like for y'all to read that. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because basically this sovereign citizen movement is the modern incarnation of the ideas that the Confederates or the Southerners basically adopted, saying that the federal government or the Union, if you will, don't really have any true authority over their life, because the sovereign citizens will always talk about states' rights things and they don't have to pay this. And basically, what a lot of our sisters did, a lot of the comedics, they got comedic people doing this stuff too. A lot of the comedics, Moors, these Aboriginal Black Indians, a lot of them basically have taken talking points. And if y'all don't know what I'm talking about, just go to YouTube. YouTube is littered with this stuff about people saying that because you indigenous to the land, you don't have to pay this. You are more, you don't have to pay that. And they file these different liens talking about their supreme chicken hotel motivated monster El Bay. And they don't, they don't really have no authority over them. And the conscious community is now filled with this stuff. So now what European people didn't hit this and quit this stuff already. And they done moved on into a different form of trying to get their way via politics, forming organizations like Brother Wade L was talking about, like the Tea Party. So they really got a lot of things done doing the tea. Now, basically what Black people has done is that we've accepted the old discarded skeleton of a lot of the legal arguments that a lot of the sovereign citizens have made. And that's why the brother basically had termed this show how white supremacy ideology has permeated woke Black spaces. So if you look at the FBI website, you see a bunch of license plates. Now, a lot of these Black people have went and studied this stuff. So now they tell Black people, I'm gonna make this point real quick and I'm gonna step down. So they got these license plates here. So basically they tell these people, hey, you don't need a license plate issued by your respective state. You can get this sovereign citizen license plate from the Hawk El Bay tribe or from the nation of Darwin's, what that other, the Amexa Moor Empire. And you ain't got it.
And the Wichita
silver and all that bull stuff, right? So all of this stuff is related to the same rights that these white supremacists feel that they have and try to invoke and push on state and federal authorities. And we've adopted a lot of this stuff. And we believe, what's that sister named Corin Gaines?
Yes. Yep.
Now, let's talk about that just for 1 second, because with all due respect to Sister Corin Gaines and her family, and I'm not trying to disparage her and her memory in any way, let's get that clear. But see, what a lot of people don't understand, y'all remember Corin Gaines, the sister who got killed with her baby and they came and shot her up? That was wrong. They shouldn't have did that. But see, what the ammunition that they used to kill, is that her name, Corin Gaines? Do I got her name right?
That's correct. Yep.
So Corin, people don't really know that Corin Gaines was basically studying this stuff, but she wasn't studying this stuff specifically. She got this bullshit from other Black people who were calling themselves quote unquote Moors or what have you.
Facts.
So she adopted this Moorish nationality or Moorish sovereign citizen issue, and she was driving without driver's license. I think she had like a cardboard license plate that she drew up with a Sharpie marker and put it on there, accepted for value or stuff that she was specifically getting from websites like Taj Tariq Bay and so on and so forth. Now, this sovereign citizen stuff in our ideas in our community is so bad that it's not even confined just to the Moorish Americans or the people who call themselves Moorish Americans and stuff like that. A lot of other groups are starting to get this
That's right.
get this information and applying it to what they doing. They even got sovereign citizen Hebrew Israelites now.
Yep. Nation of Islam members doing it too.
Right. Yep. But the point that I want to make is that all of this stuff have its root in ideas that came up in the late 1800s, late 1800s among people who knew that one day they were going to rebel against the system. And what happened on January 6th was basically an outgrowth of all of these concepts and ideas that these people hate the federal government. And if they love the federal government the way that they ought to love America the way that they say that they do, they came in, not only did they bust in the place, but they desecrated the place with their feces and their urine. And we've taken hold of this, so that has created your polites, created your Taj Tariq Bey, created the what's the other guy name who talk about he's an Olmec, that y'all talk about, you know, and a whole bunch of people y'all probably never even heard of. So we, in all kinds of ways, our black power stuff, if you will, or our Moorishness or whatever, we've swept in, and we're gonna do another separate show, I think, on this, but we've swept in a lot of those ideas into our community, not just to do for selferism, but even some of the things that we think that we saying outside that are deep, even outside this stuff, man. A lot of that stuff is white supremacist talking points.
Facts. Brother Logic, jump in, bro.
Yes, man. I wish I could have jumped on early when it came on. I had some things I had to tend to, but this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and it fires up my passion when I even think about it, because what it is, you understand, is a lot of people, a lot of us, and a lot of people who get caught up into the trickery of white supremacy. It's a very powerful thing, but it's a psychological system at its root. It gets into the way that you think about yourself. It gets in the way that you think about your history. And when they created the race classification system, you understand, that was one of the most diabolical, ingenious things they done, because now they erased all of everything that makes you think about family and has you thinking about things that come from outside yourself and looking on the outside of yourself, like your skin tone. So now, not only did this is what you don't know, not only did white supremacy so cold, it created flat blackness. It created these things because you look at everybody after it erased the memory of who you are and the knowledge of yourself. Now you just call yourself black, and everybody's black and brown and yellow, and everybody's all these different silly ass colors. You don't even know your history. So now we get to where we at here in America. And what white supremacy done to us was the most diabolical thing that's ever been done to anybody in the history of the human race. You understand? Right here in America, when they put it into the laws and how they mixed us all up and they bred us and they did all of that. So now we have a specific sickness. What has allowed white supremacy to permeate our thinking is so crazy, because now you don't know who you are. And in the search and the pursuit of the knowledge of yourself, you want to be everything but yourself. You got niggas like young Pharaoh. He's an Egyptian today and a Navajo tomorrow. He don't know what the hell he is. You understand? He don't know if he want to be in a teepee or a pyramid. You understand? And then they want to tell you that we're indigenous to the land, but we're Native Americans. But when the Europeans came here, there was 500 nations of what you all calling these indigenous ones, right? And ain't none of them called themselves American. You understand? There was no America. They're not Native Americans. Them people ain't American at all. America is a republic that was created by our ancestors and them Europeans, right? So you got people running around here. They don't even know who their great grandfather is. They're going to tell us that we all is in what we all are. They turn French all of a sudden. Everything's we this and we that. Who are you? You don't even know who your great grandfather is or who your great grandmother is. But you want to tell, a lot of them don't. And they want to tell me that I'm from some Blackfoot or some Apache or some Cherokee somewhere off, because now there may be a handful of our people who have some of that stuff in their line sprinkled through here, because we got all kind of stuff sprinkled in that line. But that don't make you hard. But the problem is what white supremacy has created a pathway to permeate your psychology, because it puts so much shame in you. You got so much shame of what your real lineage is and what you're really tied to. You want to ignore all of that. You skip over all the great people in your bloodline, and you start trying to say, "Oh, I'm these big head Olmec people all in Mexico." You ain't no Olmec. You understand? You probably got an old person named Mac in your bloodline, but you ain't no Olmec. You understand?
Old Mac.
You probably got some old Macs in your bloodline, but they ain't from Mexico.
Hey, I got a couple old Macs in my family too.
you know what I'm saying? But see, because people have been so ashamed of their own bloodline, their own history, their own lineage, instead of searching for that, they done skipped all over that American greatness, and now you're ashamed to be an American. You understand? White supremacy is so diabolical. When these devils created the system, they had you create the world they wanted to live in and then made you ashamed of it. Ain't that something? They had you create the world they wanted to live in and made you ashamed of it, and said that you, and now they put it in your psychology so bad you don't want nothing to do with it. Brother Naheem was on a Clubhouse call earlier today, and these people were talking about how they wasn't even citizens. America's a corporation and all of this silly foolishness. You understand? And they don't even understand a lot of them people that's talking. They real ancestors built this goddamn country.
That's right.
They ratified the Constitution. They didn't make no corporation. They ratified the Constitution. You understand? They had hands in building this. They fought a war to build this thing. But you want to be a part of the people who was the last to let go of slaves. You would rather ignore your great ancestors who built the country and say, "Oh, I'm a part of the people who didn't even want to let slaves go." They held slaves longer than white folks have. You understand? And then if you are those people, why are you not connecting yourself with them? Go find who your cousins is over there and who your uncles and your aunties is. Go on in there and get you some. Why aren't you beating down them reservation door steps and telling them to let you in? You understand? we family. You stop
give me some of that casino money.
Yeah, and stop coming talking to me about this silly shit, because you want to come and you spending all your time trying to convince me that I'm an Indian instead of going to the Indians and telling them. Because you know they won't have you. They don't want nothing to do with you.
Hey, look, I want to see
nothing.
I want to see your Uncle Big Black Bear, your little cousin, Sink Runner Project Water. I want to see your peoples over there. Don't tell me about it.
We want to talk about we got treaty rights. We got treaty rights. Well, where they at? Go get them then. If you got treaty rights, what you doing talking to me? Where's your land? Are you supposedly connected to the people that already got all this stuff? They got a whole Bureau of Indian Affairs. Why ain't you connecting with that?
Right.
But you want to sit around here and do this fantasy stuff instead of learning about who Prince Rivers is and learning about who Hiram Revels is and Robert Smalls and Harriet Tubman and learn about all these great people who did all these great things. And that's in your blood. That's your heritage and your legacy. All these great families, these black families, on how they fought. This is the greatest story in the history of the human race. Our story right here in America. But you're so silly. You want to be everything but the greatest people that ever walked the planet. All of this stuff. Go ahead now.
Now I'm sorry, bro. I just gotta say it because you made me think about it, brother. With the indigenous, black indigenous Indians, we the original Indians, the native indigenous to the land, right? The bottom line is that they talk about this treaty and that treaty and this. Man, if there was power, right? If there was power in claiming some kind of indigenous Native American status, well, why in the hell did that junk miss the Native Americans on the reservations? Those people on those reservations are hurting. They are hurting. So if you say you a Native American or you an indigenous American, how is it going to help you? And it's barely helping them.
That's right.
COVID-19 is killing those people.
That's right. That's right.
Those people have suffered from alcoholism forever, poverty on them reservations and stuff. So you like what Logic was saying, you have such an inferiority complex, right? That you want to say you something that don't even benefit the people who read that.
Talk to them now. And this is another thing that's interesting about that. Them people, right? They want to hold on to their heritage, and you willing to sacrifice the most powerful thing in America, which is citizenship, for some stuff they got that's lesser. They're actually inferior to you. You don't even know how powerful citizenship is.
That's right.
And how you want to be native something. We are the only Native Americans. Everyone else is an immigrant. You understand that? Because when they created our specific tribe, they created us out of all kind of things, and they created something new. The only real Americans that exist is us. You got to understand that. They not American. Them 500 nations of people, none of them was American. America is a name that people with power put on a title of something. You understand? Hey, when you talk about the Republic of America, we are the only ones that's native to that. You understand?
Go ahead, brother Malcolm. Go ahead, brother Logic. Go ahead.
we was created with this thing.
I'm changing my name to Big Chief Goose Down North Face from here on out. from here on out, I'm Big Chief Goose Down North Face, man.
Chief Timberland.
Chief Timberland. Chief Timberland Chucker.
See, people who don't know how great their own history is, that we are the most elite people by right, in history, in lineage. If you look at the blood, if you look at birthrights, right, that's why fighting for what's really yours is so important, and knowing your lineage and your history is so important.
Wait, hold on. You got a question. We got a question. Patrick Anders L. is, if there is no proof my ancestors being a slave, why would I connect to a narrative of being an ancestor of a slave? Ali, you want to take that? Josh, Ali?
Let me say something. Hold on. I came in late, man. All
right, go ahead. Bust your gun, brother. Bust your gun.
Patrick Anderson Neal, maybe you ain't. I don't know your background. Maybe you ain't from here. Maybe your ass from Haiti or Jamaica or Mars. I don't know. But if you ain't no Native American, because if you was native to here, you would have some of that slave in your belly. And then tell me who these people who wasn't slave, talking about there was no proof in your family. You mean to tell me you know all of the people that ever was born in your family, and ain't none of them ever
from both sides
an advent with slavery?
Both sides. Don't forget that part. Your mother's side, your father's side. You mean to tell me going all the way back from your mother's side and your father's side, and it's possible, but do you know it? Break it down.
Where you come from? It's not possible. Either you came here late and got forced in. Somebody in your family got forced into it. You understand? Y'all like to talk about being kidnapped. Somebody was kidnapped and put through it. See, you don't want to recognize reality that slavery done touched you, or you just got here. Either that slavery done touched your family, or you new here. You understand? You're not native to this place. Your country of origin is somewhere else. And then guess what? You either your own slaves where you was at, or you was a slave over there, and you got some of it in your history, because that's the history of the humankind. Everybody then has some of that in their origins. They put people through slavery because the race of the human race has always been about conquering and power, whether it be war, whether it be religion, whether it be political. They done took some of your people. So why are you sitting here denying that, talking about if there's no proof, if you ain't looked for it then, or you don't know nothing about yourself?
And by the brother name, his name is Anders L. I want to make some points about that, right? When you call yourself Anders L, that L behind your name has absolutely nothing. See, and I don't want to. I'm not dissing you, brother, or dissing your school of thought. But when just to show you how convoluted some of this knowledge in our community is, you carry the last name L, like I do, because I come out of that understanding. Patrick Anders L. When you carry that last name L, that name has absolutely nothing to do with indigenous Native Americans.
Facts.
They don't have that. That is specifically a Canaanite, right? A Canaanite appellation that you hold. That, and 9 times out of 10, you went into a temple or movement and you had that appended to your last name. So that has nothing to do with Native Americans. You understand? If you called yourself Bay, for those who call themselves Bay, that has absolutely nothing to do with any indigenous Native Americans. That is a Moroccan or a Turkish title of authority or honorific title. So all of this knowledge is convoluted. So we go from being descendants of Moroccans born in America to I'm the indigenous Native Americans of the land. Let me tell you something, brother. In my personal archives, I have the old Moorish Guides newspapers from Noble Drew Ali's, who I'm assuming you follow that ideology, from his lifetime. In those newspapers, they wrote that our ancestors was brought over here in slavery to Africa. So one of the most perplexing things to me, Brother Naheem, is how the disconnect from 1928, 1929, 1930 to today, to where those people understood, because they even talked about, they had some of the dates wrong, but they even talked about the slave ships, John Hawkins. They even had articles addressing peonage in the South.
Sapelo Island.
Exactly. They addressed all of that kind of stuff in regards to slavery in the papers in the 1920s. And now all of a sudden, this white supremacist stuff has permeated a lot of teachers. So now you'll tell somebody that you don't have proof that your ancestors are slaves. Something's wrong with that, my brother.
Facts. All right, we got we got one of these guys. At Be the Power. How did y'all go from the topic of, we still talking about the same thing. But anyway, how do y'all go from the topic of right-wing talking points within our community, and now y'all tossing racist terms based in so-called white ideology yourself? What's
I
up
don't
with
know
that?
what he talking about.
What did I miss?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I don't know. Anyway,
Some people are so beholden to a false ideology that when they hear certain things that go against their own false ideology, they believe it to be white supremacist talking points. But nothing we've said is racist terms and white ideology, et cetera, et cetera. Your comment is nonsense, King.
Read the next
stuff. Yeah, okay. I wanted that this stuff is real. I know what he probably offended because
he said because they didn't choose to be on those reservations. Those are nothing but concentration camps.
Man.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, just like what the brother said, you have a Bureau of Indian Affairs. They not doing nothing to they don't the federal government not doing nothing. All they can do in the power to make those people whole. So what? How they gonna make some Negro who's calling himself a Native American or addition? How he gonna make you whole and he ain't even make them people whole? So you think by calling yourself that and tying into that's gonna make you better than the people that's alcoholics, dying of COVID, poor. But man, if bro, those people so pissed off right now. Trump, I mean, well, a few months ago, Trump had a rally at Mount Rushmore, which the United States government supposed to have gave them that land back. They're about to run oil pipelines all through there. Remember all them protests when all the Native Americans and stuff came out? They're about to run pipelines all through that stuff, man. That man don't give a crap about what you saying about you being here. And you saying that you them ain't gonna make you no better. Cause look how he busting their ass.
His statement is interesting because he got all this sympathy for them. They didn't choose to be there. So what does choice have to do with anything? We didn't choose to be in chattel slavery, but that's the truth. That's just the
we history. Didn't choose to land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on it. Oh my bad. Go ahead, bro.
So peep this, right? You have to understand how power works. It don't matter what you chose. Those who have the power make the choices and the decisions. If you are at the behest of someone who has more power and authority enforced in you, you don't get to make no choices. You understand? And then you say they, like you know the history of everybody that's on a reservation. A lot of them did choose that. You haven't done enough history and research to understand what you're talking about. A lot of them has sat down with councils and made deals. You understand? When you make a deal, you are the one deciding and dictating some of them terms. We didn't have no deal. You understand? We didn't get down and say we want to be the bottom caste, all us. You understand? We don't want to inherit no wealth from our people. We want to come out of emancipation right into homelessness and poverty. That's we the ones that didn't have no choice. You understand? We didn't get 3 acres of land like the serfs did when they got emancipated out in Russia. We didn't get no land. They gave 40 acres to people and they took it back. We didn't choose to give it back. You're talking about choices. You understand? So it's not about choice, it's about power. And white supremacy is a power structure that has power over your mind and power over your behind. So you better understand that. And that's your problem.
Excellent point. Excellent points, bro. Yeah. So we're coming up on 2 hours, brother. What you want to do? Is any other place you want to touch on?
We got brother Josh back. I'm trying to fight this cough.
Yeah.
So,
hey,
brother Josh.
Yeah, man. I had a few questions, man. It's funny. I had put it in the chat to save it, and but I think there's 2 things I wanted to say. First, I wanted to say that just building on the topic, white supremacy, racism, white supremacy is a virus, and it has infected America and caused severe damage to internal organs, and we've seen it cause a failure of America with the Civil War, and it never got the treatment. We never got the proper treatment to eradicate the virus out of the body, and we're seeing that right now. This virus has is revved back up like a new. I want to say it's a new strain, but it's a sister or brother strain of this virus that's come back, been allowed to.
Hey, Josh. Let me say this new strain of the white supremacy virus carries AK-47s. Yeah, you're right with that one.
Yeah, and I want to say we've been in a pandemic. We've been in a pandemic from WS 1619. I say that's so. And another other thing I wanted to ask Ali, before I want to ask you a question, Ali. Then I want to move to, another part of our woke black space, another woke black space that has been affected by white supremacy. All right. So, Ali, now we know that the 14th Amendment, I'm going back to the 14th Amendment. Let me turn this thing around. We know that the 14th Amendment actually was ratified in 1868, right? So, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, is what we're talking about, that these devils who tried to do the coup, who did the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, all of them need to be charged with that, prosecuted and using the 14th Amendment. I mean, excuse me, this in particular, the ones that were Congress members, the Congress members, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Congress members, what was the one girl's name? I can't think of her name.
Boebert.
Yeah, the one who Nancy Pelosi. She outed Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
They were given strict instructions: do not communicate with anybody, including family. And this woman, I don't know if you can bring up that tweet, but she put the tweet out there. Before at the beginning of the day. This is 1776. That's what she said at like 7 o'clock that morning. Then, this is one who's been known to try to carry around a Glock around the Capitol, right? Then, when after those people had ran up in the Capitol, going crazy and doo-doo and smashing doo-doo all over the wall and the floor and pissing all over the place, right? Then she's gonna say, well, she's gonna put out a tweet that says the speaker is out of her chamber, is out of the chambers, right? So basically,
the bird has left the nest. The bird has left the nest. Get her, y'all.
So that should be, I mean, right there. 14th Amendment, Section 3. You should not be holding office. You're not, and anybody that is found to be connected to this should not be holding office, including Donald Trump. So, but the point of my question is, and it's just because, and if you're academic out there, if you want to give us the answer or your perspective of what the answer would be, I appreciate it. So we know that the 14th Amendment was ratified or accepted or whatever, put into place in 1868. However, Andrew Johnson gave the Christmas pardon on Christmas of 1868. So we know that a lot of those former Confederates who received the pardon ended up running and getting in office after. So are we saying that the Andrew Johnson pardon superseded the 14th Amendment? For anybody who says, well, they didn't run for office, I have a direct on my one of my former slave master ancestors. I have a record where he ran for an election and won in Virginia.
Come on, Josh. I'm sorry, but we gotta respond to so you gotta respond to the trolls sometimes. And like I said when I first started, and my hot toddy has kicked in, but I've been restrained from speaking about the super duper toxic Twitter troll with the YouTube channel. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But let's get to this guy right here. Mm-hmm. King. He says, Logic, you trying to have it both ways. Either our ancestors, hold on, let's bring Logic on. He ain't even on the stream. Logic, you trying to have it both ways. Either our ancestors are quote unquote founders of this system, or they were enslaved against their will. Which is it? Now
it is both.
The master's house. You let me say before you go in, you could tell these people are not studied. They don't know American history at all. If he knew American history, he could never make that comment. Go ahead, brother.
And it's because people are not studying the right material, like you said. But when you study history, right, This stuff has happened all over the world. It is both ways. But when America, see, this is what happens when you sit down, and we still do this today. We sit down in honesty and good spirit and make deals. Man,
breaking up.
It's a
it's a case of still
choppy.
Yeah, it's still choppy, but it's a case of two things being true at the same time. More than one thing can be true at once. Understand that. So when you're saying either our ancestors are founders, which they were, or of the system, or they were enslaved against their will, which they were, both things are true. You just have to know the history. Like, in other words, like, the history tells you that both things are actually true at the same time. You just have to understand that, and when you read enough material, you'll come to understand that. Logic is back. Go ahead, bro.
Is it any clearer? I just want to check.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, you good now.
So this isn't something that I'm making up. You understand? It's sad, right? I got a little bit of empathy for the brother because he just don't know, and you haven't been taught right. You understand? What I'm telling you is the honest truth. Those people who was riding with the patriot that formed the Union, right? We're here, right? Slavery, what you don't understand, was a criminal operation. If you check out some shows that we've done in the past, some programs, we educated you on that, right? So this is what happens when you sit down and break bread and make deals with criminals. They do this every day. You get robbed out of things every day. You get wrongfully convicted and thrown into prison every day. You got people who wrong has been done to us, brother. So when we worked with these devils to form the republic, they would have never been able to reform it out of their own admittance without our help and aid and assistance. Abraham Lincoln's on record talking about it. Justice Curtis is on record talking about it. You understand? Many more people. You have there's several, so much documentation that you have not read talking about it. It was a criminal operation, and what they did was criminal. You understand? But that's what happens when you sit down and make deals with devils, and you think that they're going to make good on what you made a deal with. It is the truth. So you got to understand, during that time of the formation of the republic, the population of that republic was quite small. Then you start seeing all the way up into 1808, that slave trade just went crazy. That criminal operation just started going crazy. You understand? There were a lot of treachery took place. A lot of treachery took place after the Civil War. You understand? Where we fought to save America from destroying itself, right? They made deals with us again. You had some of them that was with us that made deals and wanted to try to extend the right kind of justice. And then the stronger devils came over and said, we're going to take it back. It's the history of America. You need to learn it. That's why it sounds strange to you, because you've been reading everything but your own history. You just don't know enough American history. So you don't. Go ahead.
Now, I just wanted to add when you finish, brother. Go ahead.
No, go ahead and add on, because it's too much. He has to really go back.
I'm gonna point out. You pointed out a whole lot, but I'm gonna point out something specific to the brothers. Point instances in history. The first is the American Revolution, the war, right? And we were there, lock and step. They had a lot of our people who fought with the British. And, a lot of those people were granted British citizenship, went on ahead about their business, went overseas and lived the rest of their life. Maybe a lot of Black Britons are descendants of those people, right? But for the ones that stayed here and fought in the American Revolution, we were here. And like Logic was saying, we talked about the fact that there were Black citizens who voted and ratified the Constitution of the United States of America. These brothers have addressed that many times on this show. But what you don't understand, brother, is that slavery was a progressive system. Even though they were bringing people over here in chains, they hadn't solidified the institution of slavery legally. So a lot of these things didn't have law, didn't have standing in common law. You know, you have common law, statutory law, but common law was the law that was being used by the people in the colonies. So to make a long story short, that what became the institution of antebellum slavery, it came from people coming over here as indentured servants. They was having to let people go because a lot of this stuff wasn't addressed by the common law. So basically what ended up happening was the institution of slavery became progressive to where the people who were actually considered citizens were being degraded and degraded and degraded and degraded in a citizenship status to where they basically had us to where we couldn't move one way or the other. So Ali Bey is right when he said, yeah, it's both. We were descendants of slaves, chattel slaves, and we were the founders of the of America. We're part of the founders. Prince Hall. We have individuals like Prince Hall, the founder of the Black Masonic Institution. There's scholarly institutions that are changing the law books changing the history books, and they're considering Prince Hall one of the founders of America. These people are right there, and we're not talking about I think Naheem put up on the screen the Black Patriots of the American Revolution by Beecher Stowe, right? Just things that those people would have lost wholesale if it wasn't for the sacrifice of our people. We had Black people that were being double agents against the British government on behalf of what became the United States government. You, like Logic say, brother, you don't know and understand the history. The Civil War, they would have lost that if it wasn't for our people. And that's what Naheem have that background back there that he puts up sometimes of a painting that we found years ago that called the 15th Amendment, I think the painting is called. And it has a panoramic view of all of that stuff and how it took place. That's it right there, you know? And it tells the story of not only our emancipation, but our inclusion in this government and how I'm not going to get into this and how really this government was supposed to be turned over to us, so to speak. But that's a whole nother science, man, that people ain't ready for.
Yo, hey, Ali, before you, we got something else you want to pull up, bro?
You could go ahead. I just wanted that up so people could see like what we're talking about. This is stuff that other historians and writers have already written about and covered in great detail. You know, the person Nancy Sanders, who wrote this book, America's Black Founders, knows full well the history of Negro chattel slavery in this country, but she also knows the history of America's Black Founders. So go ahead, Josh. What was the question you wanted to ask?
No, I was just trying to see, did Andrew Johnson's pardon in 1868 override the condemnation of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, which said that those people who were in armed rebellion against the country could not hold public office again? Did that absolve them from having to be subject to that?
It's a good question. You know, there were people who were pardoned. I don't think those pardons overruled the 14th Amendment, because the 14th Amendment, Section 3, if you read it towards the bottom, when it talks about the disability being removed, it tells you who has the authority to remove the disability. It says that disability could be removed by a 2/3 votes of each house in Congress. As far as I know, there was never any vote from Congress to remove the disability of any Confederate who engaged in insurrection. So if they held office again after that, it probably was illegal.
Yeah, I had that as one of my white American quote unquote former slave holding ancestors. That happened with him, you know. And it was
Yeah.
actually, I think he actually first, I think he was either unseated or he lost the original election to another descendant of a former slave. I don't know if it was one of his former slaves, but it was a former slave who, this was the time period after the war where we started running for office and we started holding office. He actually lost the election to a former slave. That's just a little tidbit of history that
What
I was trying to figure out and understand, reconcile.
one thing you
And
got to to keep in mind, right? Before you get to 1868, you got to see the plays and the things, the actions that were taken in 66 and 67. He was moving quite rapidly. He did a lot of things to set up, because it's always been about states' rights and the union, and it's always been about the state powers and the central powers. So Andrew Johnson had already put a lot of the people back in play by setting up provisional governors in states. And then the provisional governors moved very quickly to put other people in general assemblies and put people back in power in Capitol Hill, and to secure certain protections and make threats on certain people's lives. And understand that a lot of these people, even in the North, after things were done, the blood was done being shedded, was still related to each other as family members. So a lot of things were allowed, even though they may not have the power of the law behind it, just like slavery. So, you gotta remember that.
yeah, I seen Riri had Sister Riri had put a comment, was actually a question. She wanted us to talk about the black freedmen slave ownership in the South, because a lot of when we talk about reparations, well, they'll say, well, black people own, those are black people that own slaves too, and they'll make up a story about somebody in South Carolina, a mythical figure. They'll inflate the amount of people he held. Say, well, one of the largest slave owners was a black man in the South, which was just a lie. And I don't have it in front of me. It's in Dr. Darity's book, but he talks about that. He talks about how the percentage of black people that own slaves was like the freedmen that owned slaves. I think it was like around 1% or something very small like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Black, I mean,
It was
listen,
insignificant. That's
Yeah.
it
all.
was a very insignificant number. And the sister Juanita kind of addressed it in the chat. She mentioned how some black slave owners enslaved their families. Not all of them. I'm not going to say they all did that, but a lot of them did own their family members in order to protect them from the harsh treatments or mistreatment from European slave owners. A lot of them were doing that in order to try to protect their family members, and ultimately set a lot of them free. And also, I just wanted to say too about the brother's comment where he said it wasn't a revolution; they were bucking Britain. He was saying the colonials were bucking Britain to protect the slave institution. I'm sure that protecting slavery was to some degree a part of it, particularly coming behind the Somerset cases coming out of the Court of King's Bench in Britain. If you are familiar with the Somerset case, then what that's about, and that some of the people in America, some of the slaveholders in America felt that the Somerset case would in some way the outcome of the Somerset case would in some way shape how the colonials were able to deal with the institution of slavery, whether it would undermine the institution of slavery or not. Some of them did feel that way. I don't know that was the major issue. Brother Logic, you could probably speak even more on the intolerable acts the so-called intolerable acts, the oppressive acts, as some of them were called, that was put on colonial America by the British, and how that led to the American Revolution. It wasn't just about slavery. You have to read, Brother King, if you would, research the intolerable acts, research the Somerset case. They both play a part in
I don't think, brother. But hold on, Ali. I don't think
Yeah.
Brother King is really trying to learn anything. So,
Now, I was just saying
just address the people in general.
Not just for him, but the people as well.
Definitely.
They can look up the intolerable acts just so they understand that, we know what we're talking about. It's not like, and I'm just coming off the top with this. It's like, research the intolerable acts, and it'll give you an idea on some of the run up to the American Revolution and what was going on at the time. You have to read the surrounding history as well. It's not just slavery. It wasn't just about slavery. I wouldn't even say it was mostly about slavery. The slavery might have played a part in it. Go ahead.
One thing I want to add to that, in addition to that, we have to understand that slavery was an institution, and it wasn't a new institution. Like slavery had existed from the beginning of time. So when that is a talking point that, people some black folks like to use that talking point, white folks like to use that talking point as though that makes some type of difference. Even if there was a significant amount of black slave owners, what difference does that make? You understand? I don't understand the difference that it makes.
Right.
Or why people think that's a good thing to throw out there. Well, black folks own slavery too. So what does that mean?
It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't change what happened to our people. It doesn't change what happened to our people. Also, I will just say this, right? I was just talking to someone about the Articles of Association today from 1774. When you read the Articles of Association, King, which was put together in response to the Intolerable Acts, read the Intolerable Acts, read the Articles of Association, and their plea, the colonials' plea to the sovereign of Britain, and they laid out point for point what their issues were with Britain right before they went to war. So you'll see there's a number of things, and it's not just about, it wasn't land theft and slavery. You'll see they laid out in great detail in the Articles of Association what it was that they were having grievances with the sovereign Britain over, that ultimately put them into a war with Britain. So you can't just put that out there, because this stuff is well documented. You're just saying stuff based on what you believe it to be, but they actually documented this stuff. So I'm telling the people, whether King does it or not, read the Intolerable Acts and then read the Articles of Association from 1774, and it'll give you a lot of detail as to what was actually going on and what the grievances were that led up to the American Revolution. It's not what King is saying. King is trying to make it into what he wants it to be because it sounds good and that's what he knows. But the fact of the matter is the history is well documented. We don't have to make anything up.
And everybody needs to read From Here to Equality, Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century.
Right.
That's some of the greatest untouched history and expert work that is ever been written. And it'll give you, a great insight on all of that stuff we was just speaking about.
So wait, hold on.
It's essential to being a reparationist.
So somebody named Bantu Nature said y'all attack on ADOS was uncalled for and childish. Let me speak to this, because I'm a little lit from my little hot toddy right now.
Don't go too hard, bro.
No, I'm not, because I asked y'all to keep me in check just in case the little hot toddy got me a little. We Bantu Nature, we didn't attack ADOS. In fact, we didn't attack anybody. We was responding to an attack from a narcissistic, sociopathic troll on Twitter, actually, who put up a tweet that caused her minions in the peanut gallery to attack us. We know some very fine people over in that group that rock with that organization, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what you're talking about. Don't bring that over here.
Just understand
Yeah.
this, Bantu. Just understand this, Bantu. We are going to handle all family business very soon. You understand? And if you really wanted some clarification, because obviously by your statement, you don't know what you're talking about. But if you're truly interested in understanding and clearing up your ignorance, just stay tuned, family. We're going to handle all family business. Don't worry about it. Don't even worry about
Bantu
it.
Nature said y'all attacked ADOS on Twitter all weekend. I don't know what
And we never attack
he's talking
ADOS.
about.
ADOS love us. You don't know. You must don't know who ADOS is. That's our
No.
family. They love us. And we
This
love
person
them.
thinks ADOS is them two people that call themselves the leaders, the inventors of graphs that been in existence and things of that nature. I don't know. But no, we didn't attack ADOS at all. You dug it.
We'll get
And
we'll
we
get it
definitely
together.
didn't attack you, Sister Bantu Nature. So I don't, I don't know
Yeah.
if you're a part of any chapter. We didn't attack. We didn't attack no chapters. We big up the chapters. Peace. I'm a part of a chapter. So what the sense would it make attacking myself?
Exactly.
And
People
you know, man,
people just
We
don't
just
be saying
addressed
anything.
the toxic,
Hey, Naheem, why you
narcissistic,
attack me, bro? Why you
sociopathic
attack me?
Twitter troll. We didn't attack
Why'd you
anyone.
attack Josh like that? Why would you attack Josh
hey,
like that?
Why you?
let me say something too, and I'm not gonna go because, like I say, I know all of this stuff is about to be cleaned up real soon, right? In proper fashion. Now, all of this great, wonderful information, man, all of you brothers have been putting out for the last 2 hours and 20 minutes that we've been on. Somebody comes on to bring something totally irrelevant to the conversation about a personality. You see what I'm saying? And that's the reason why, well, one of the reasons why a lot of our people can't raise up, because people not dedicated to actually doing things or to actually doing work, right? Somebody basically got off from Popeyes. I'm not disparaging Popeyes or McDonald's. A lot of these people work at Popeyes and McDonald's. You follow what I'm saying? And they don't have nothing to do.
Hey, man, people need jobs, man.
Hey, you're right, they do. But they don't have no
I ain't
other
knocking it at all.
motivation in life, I should say, Josh, but to turn on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and look at some mess, right? And then keep the mess going, because that's all they got to do is they sit down and laugh. And that's why another personality, who I'm not going to say their name, is so popular, because people like to look at it and laugh at them dogging other people and slandering other people, you know? This ain't our first rodeo with this stuff. We done been through it before.
We vets.
The generality of men are ignorant.
Facts.
And that's why true freedom fighters have been sacrificed on pyres without success, because we can't come together as a people, and we get into all kinds of weak, twisted ideas and concepts, personalities, instead of trying to quell the thing. People got cell phones. Most of these people got free Obama phones, and they can't even pick up the phone to talk to their brother and sister. Bam, put it right out on Twitter. Bam, put it right out on Facebook. Put it on TikTok and all of that other foolishness, man, that people be on, as opposed to try. And that's why we'll never be able to get off our backs until we stop this this characterless slandering. And be careful.
Let me say,
and be careful what you're saying, because you might get yourself in some trouble.
That's a fact.
Let me say,
just know that we're gonna handle all family
my bad,
business
man. My bad.
very soon.
Y'all go ahead.
We're gonna handle this.
I might go there. Hold on, brother.
But we done already been on for 2 hours, and that needs to have
you're
all
right.
the attention.
You're right.
They
That
don't
does
need to
being
dictate
that
what we talking about.
Bantu. What is this person's name? Bantu what? Whatever
Nature,
that person's name.
Bantu
Try to
nature.
throw us off track because we addressed the person that tried to get their little online click the V-Hive to attack us. Okay. We got you.
Just know, we're gonna get to that. That's not what tonight was about, but we're gonna get to all of that. And since you're interested, just make sure you tune in.
That's all. That's all. But it's 2 hours and 24 minutes in. Me, my brother Logic and I, we just got finished battling with this goddamn COVID.
Woo, that boy mean too. That boy COVID mean.
COVID is mean. That's a mean SOB. It feel like, although I'm on the other side of the worst of it, it just still feel like a quadrillion microscopic anchors is in my body trying to drag me down, and you just gotta keep fighting this thing. This thing is no joke, family. So let me see what these comments are saying. BTP didn't attack ADOS. The infighting is orchestrated by gatekeepers and cult followers. Damn, that's a perfect comment, right?
That's absolute truth right there.
We didn't attack nobody. Let me say what was said real quick.
True.
Only thing I said was I got tired.
Hold up. We know what y'all want. We could have talked about that tonight, but stay tuned. We're gonna give it all.
We was trying to, because somebody made a comment about us beating our chest. We alpha males, we silverbacks over here, slim, aka the slim gorillas, right, Grim? We do a lot of chest beating over here. We do a lot of chest beating over here, straight like that.
Just tune in Thursday and bring a friend and tell a family member. We're gonna clear up all family.
Yeah, we just gonna clear it up. That's it. Being that somebody want to try to interrupt us, one of these trolls that the cult leaders
this is exactly what you were saying.
We're gonna do them a favor, and we're gonna talk about it. That's it. It.
Special program.
I had one more point I was trying to bring up about the subject matter, but they want to interject some mess, and make it messy when we trying to be educational.
That's how the devil works. That's how the devil works. I'm glad it happened.
I'm glad too. I'm glad too. We beat chess over here. That's all. So look, fam. What you was gonna say, Josh?
No, I was just gonna bring up the other point. We didn't even get to the other woke, probably the largest woke organization. And some of the talking points that come from that, and it's probably the church. We didn't even get to that,
Oh, well, there's a good program that we did, and my good brother Gremion came in and blessed us with his knowledge on that one too. Go back and research that program we did, because I'm sure we answered a lot of the questions you have. I don't even remember the title of the show we did about the history of religion in this country, and a lot of the different things that have gone on, and I'm sure we answered a lot of questions. That is a real amazing program we did. Go back, and when this is over, scroll through and revisit that. You know what I mean?
Us chest beating alpha males over here, fam.
You know what I'm saying, fam?
Fam.
So look. Let me just say one last thing, and then this will be my closing thing. A brother wanted to know if I would address a comment about Black and Brown Coalition. I am not of the belief that there is a Black and Brown Coalition, right? Do I think it would be good or cool if we could have a Black and Brown Coalition that works for the benefit, particularly of Native Black Americans, and then Latinos who are willing to work along with us to secure the things that we need as foundational Black Americans. I'm going to say it like that. Yeah, I think it would be cool if we could do that, but I just don't think that exists, brother. I'm not against it. I just don't think it exists. And it's not something that I'm really focused on. I don't think that any of us are any reparation is truly focused on that. But it's not like we don't need allies, because we need allies, and we could use allies, and if we could get people to help us in our plight, we could help other people in their plight as well. Because that's our thing. That's what we've done. That's our history. That's our legacy, is helping other people.
Yeah.
We've already done that. So the thing for us is in terms of a Black and brown coalition would be, what would the Latinos be willing to do to help us? We've helped everybody else already.
Yes. And what they need to do is tell their family members and stop being silent about their cartel family members and the long history of them using dope, working with the government to use dope to poison our people and to take advantage of our bottom caste. And so we know we need money. They know we need money. They've had a hidden secret relationship with the American government, and they come through with cocaine from Colombia. Then when the government stopped working with the Colombian brown ones, right, and they start working with the Mexicans, and they bring dope and guns and poison the community, and they help use us, shoot us up, and kill us up. And when they put us in jail under mass incarceration, they unite with the Aryan nation in the prisons, and they help stab and kill all our brothers and sisters in prison. So when you talk about a brown coalition, what are we talking about? They're going to have to denounce all of that violence and all that dope and all that gun spread they done put in account, and recognize all the damage and the role they done played in the Black community. So I can't build a coalition with the people who done had a major role in destroying our community and then want to act like they ain't related to those people. That's your family. Get them in check and then talk to me about a coalition, because I'm not trying to hear none of that.
Man, I lived in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm not hating on them people, but man, I lived in San Antonio, Texas, man. When I was in the military, man, that's one of the most anti-Black places, man, that I've ever lived. As far as the people that they call brown or whatever, and their attitudes and things towards us. So I've lived that experience in San Antonio, which is a majority Mexican city, and they didn't show me nothing when I went there. This is before ADO. This is before everything. I went there expecting to have some type of solidarity or whatever and have a good time when I was in the military. Man, I didn't experience that from a lot of the Mexican Americans in San Antonio. I didn't. I'm just speaking from and I saw a lot of anti-Blackness.
In California, let me say, in California, it's a whole nother story. I think the Mexicans and the San Salvadorians and whatever Spanish-speaking groups over there are more oppressive to our people than the Europeans are. I've seen stories where these guys then got together and threw Molotov cocktails through people's windows like the KKK used to do our people back in the days. So yeah, man.
Hey, I want to say, somebody brought it up already in the chat. Like, and that's why I say it got to be a re-education. Because when you come to America and you brown, dark brown, heavily melanated brown, I don't care what the shade of brown is, you need to come with a sense of appreciation, deference, and saying, "Can I repay you for allowing me the opportunity to even come to America, or for my people the opportunity to even come to America?" Because if it wasn't for us bleeding and fighting and dying in the civil rights movement, and even before that, like, even when we think about the civil rights movement, it's a price that's paid each generation, either to make progress or either to survive so the next generation can make some progress. So, it's not just you thanking the people that did that in the civil rights era. You got to thank the people that survived through slavery. You got to thank the people who fought through Civil War. You got to thank the people who survived Jim Crow and
convict leasing and all this kind of stuff, all the white domestic terrorism, to even be able to make it to where you can get a civil rights movement to where people are still fighting. So yeah, when you apologize to me, I mean, when you come over grateful to me, I'm taking it as you grateful to like me, or more so my grandparents, my great grandparents, my great 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 grandparents, and all of them, right? But that needs to be that needs to be the approach when anybody's looking for solidarity or looking for coalition. That's the perspective. So it's been too much of this one-sidedness where we got to come and compromise and bend over backwards for other groups. When, like, for what? For what? Y'all owe us now. We need y'all to lead some movement so we can get something, because we done already led the movement for y'all to get a large majority of the benefit. And one last thing I wanted to ask y'all, because this is another one that people coming out of the church
Josh
a
crazy,
lot of
right?
times say
Yeah,
this.
that's funny. He said 12
We
last
got
Hey,
week.
it.
I
Because we
laughed.
ain't
So
gonna get
this
back
one
to
I
it,
last
right?
week,
laughed to
12
myself
done.
as soon as he said that.
Right.
Go ahead, brother
So
John.
one last
People will say, "Well, we was much better when we was, what the worst thing that happened." They'll say the worst thing that happened to us was integration. We were much better when, at least under segregation, we had so many black businesses. We had our own black communities that was flourishing with businesses like Harlem, and you can name a bunch of different places around the country where black businesses were flourishing. Now look at integration. You've seen the failure of black businesses with everybody wanted to eat in white folks' restaurants, and we wanted to do this and wanted to do that. So we was better off when we were segregated. What do y'all got to say to that?
Well, those are very, like, those type of questions really need to really be fleshed out and really be talked about. If we wouldn't really do it, it's just do answering that question real quick, because we would have to really explain the conditions in the history and provide examples for so the understanding could be attained. We really can't get at it at 2 hours and 35 minutes now at the end. It's a great and powerful question, and it deserves to really get the attention that it needs. And we should do an entire breakdown on write these questions down, and we should revisit this and really do a good breakdown on it, because it needs to be dissected and understood. That is a awesome question, but it really needs to be
Let,
unpacked with education.
Yeah, we
and,
can't do it we can't do
right.
the justice to
Let
it
me
at
just say
11:05.
this to Marzell. Let me just say this to Marzell. Don't say that we didn't have smoke for Tone. Tone ain't nobody that not have smoke for. Don't think that. Let me say something. When we did our show addressing ADOS before, when they came up with all of that stuff about Tamara, and we had to address those people, the fact
No,
of the
I
matter
don't
is,
think that's what he's saying, bro.
I don't think that's what he's saying, bro.
I don't
He
think
was
that's what
saying
he's
that.
saying.
Yeah, that's not what he's saying, bro.
oh, okay, all right,
Yeah,
all right.
that's not what
Yeah,
he's saying.
if there's
They
because
saying
I
that the
know,
people who was upset with us for going at
yeah.
war
Well,
now
my
didn't say
apologies
nothing.
my apologies to the brother, but I don't want anybody to think that was the case, because we
Yeah.
actually invited the brother. I said give the brother the link. Who y'all know who he is? He's probably listening, and give him the link to come on so we could talk live. So it's not like that. Don't get me wrong, bro. I'm not trying to attack you, and if I misunderstood what you're saying, I truly apologize. But I just want people to understand that.
I gotta address this. I gotta
Silverback gorillas,
Y'all
man.
crazy.
I gotta address this. This
Y'all crazy.
Jacqueline Stevens said if it wasn't for Yvette and Tone, you guys wouldn't have done this channel. Like, do they not know? I guess they didn't see the first time we had to go at them people. Like,
But
this channel been up for years.
they so ignorant, man. The ignorance.
Years.
Ignorance.
I got
How
one
do
of
you
the
think we come out the blue with thousands and thousands of subscribers? You think we just did? You don't know nothing. But don't worry about it. All the confusion gonna be cleared up Thursday. You're just blind and ignorant, and you don't know nothing. You're just repeating and regurgitating a bunch of stupid shit.
just
We're
children.
gonna clear it all out. Just
Just
baby. You're just a
children.
baby. You don't
They
even know
just
how to think
babies.
for yourself.
They come out the
And think
peanut
about
gallery.
this, like we already said that we for the people. Like we doing this for you, whether you realize it or not. You come around here talking about mentioning other people's names. Why? We putting out programs that's helping you and your cousin that's a
Word.
knucklehead in the street
who ain't gonna listen to a lot of other people, but he might listen to us.
That's
So what
right.
you coming on here starting to mess with us for, man? Like,
And one last thing before we go, y'all might have missed it. Naheem right now has the oldest video on reparations with the most views out of any video on reparations. There ain't a video on reparations that I've seen that got over how many, Naheem? How many views?
266,000 plus.
266,000 plus. Stop talking to us, man. We'll see y'all Thursday, man.
We'll see y'all
Yeah.
Thursday.
And
Look,
let me
Grim.
say this too. And y'all can remember, because we all testified, man, before we even knew who those particular people were, we was already building and talking about the Reconstruction history and how that junk affects us today,
right.
man. You know,
I think we know so much already.
Character. You know, man, people into personalities, man, and I'm sorry, Josh, but people into personality and characters, man, and they can't let that go, man. They can't let that go. But in a few short days, all that stuff will be addressed, like Logic said.
The person said one video on reparations doesn't mean you've been on it. Anybody that knows me, and you don't know me, person, know that I've been on reparations.
What year was that video?
That video was 2011, but I was talking about reparations way before then. I was beefing with dudes in the Moorish movement that was trying to say that we shouldn't focus on reparations. I was pointing out quotes that Noble Drew Ali said about reparations. I'm like, what in the world are y'all talking about? The man said that one day the European is going to have to pay our people off and pay off in compound interest for the work that our ancestors did in slavery. How could y'all be against reparations? Man, listen, we're going to talk about it Thursday, though. We're going to talk about it Thursday. Somebody, I want to come disrupt us. We trying to do our best to address the situation. You know, the little cult leader took a little shot, talk about beating chess or whatever, and we take our little shots back because we don't follow the cult leader.
Silverback gorillas.
The silverbacks over here. Don't play with us. Like we ain't doing no roasting, and we gonna come. When we come, we always come correct. I've been on it like that. My bros been on it like that. Come on, man. Don't come at us.
And see, and that's why we didn't. And that's why we didn't give it to y'all today, because we know you wanted it. You can't have it today. We gonna give it to you Thursday.
They trying to keep us on too. I see the Jacqueline Steven trying to keep us on with stuff. But it'll get dealt with, Jacqueline. It'll get dealt with. The talking points and all of that stuff.
And they ain't that mad. They ain't that mad. They all up in the chat. You ain't that mad. You're right on BTP listening to us. You can't be that mad.
You done listen to a whole 2 hours of a history lesson, and then you want to jump in here with the nonsense. But this is what happens when narcissistic sociopaths enable their cult members. They will invade a whole Capitol building, right? or they'll jump in your comment. Okay. Well, we gonna serve justice then. That's what you want, because a lot of them people that follow the narcissistic sociopath and Trump getting arrested right now. So we gonna serve justice too. That's what you want. You got.
Yeah. Hey, I'm out, man.
All right, y'all. Hey, yo, fam. Be safe. Please take this COVID thing serious. This has been a battle of a lifetime for me. I'll still have a lingering cough. I've been drinking a hot toddy. I said that earlier. I don't drink hard alcohol, but it showed that it could reduce the cough. So I took a hot toddy tonight, and I'm feeling a little bit
I see, huh?
right now. I'm feeling a little good. I might have to do hot toddies more often. I don't know.
No doubt. OG Otis in the building. Somebody said pure reparations from here to equality. That's right. That's right.
Shout out to the OG Otis, man. That's a true OG right there. Give a
Where
shout
do we
out
go from here?
From here to equality.
we
That's
go
where
from
we
here?
go from here.
That's
From here
right.
to equality.
Straight up. So you know, we be back Thursday night, family. I'm hoping this damn cough go away so I don't gotta drug myself like I just did before I came on. I'm probably gonna be up to like 3 in the morning doing 1,000 push-ups or something crazy. But look, we be back Thursday. Don't just fight the power, become the power, and then you'll have the power to make a change. With that, I say peace.
I am a reparationist.
I am a reparationist.